At 7 o'clock, we'll call the April 27th Mississippi County Quorum Court to order. Ms. Curry, would you call the roll, please?
Justice Ash.
Here.
Justice Burge. Justice Cullen.
Here.
Justice Kleeman.
Here.
Justice Hinton.
Here.
Justice Hepler.
Here.
Justice Jackson.
Here.
Justice Mangat.
Here.
Justice McClanahan.
Here.
Justice McDonald.
Here.
Justice White.
Here.
Justice White, would you present the latest information on the legislative audit, please?
Yes, sir. Everybody, I left mine laying on the front seat of my truck. I meant to bring it in. It was a green book that came in the mail. Every one of you should have received a copy of the legislative audit for 2019. It's an annual presentation that the state comes in and reviews our books. Not everything about our books, but most things about our books. And once again, this year we had a very, very, very clean legislative audit with no discrepancies or bad findings. Looked clean to me, Judge. Did you look it over? And we are required by law to recognize that we have each received a copy. There's nothing for us to do about it other than recognize that we have received a copy. And for good or bad, at least you've got it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, the judge's office, or financial management.
Has everyone been furnished with a copy? If not, if you'll let me know. All right. We'll move on. The next item on the agenda is the reading and approval of the minutes.
I'd like to point something out in the minutes. Just for clarification, the first line, it says economic development is 50-cent tax.
Oh.
We need to change that to 0.5%. And also, the representative that spoke with us was Shep Russell from the Friday Law Firm.
Thank you, Justice Ash. Ms. George, would you make those changes?
I will.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes, because everybody's already received one with those corrections.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? We'll move on to the treasurer's report. Ms. Meek, do you have a report for us this evening?
The interest rate is still 0.55 on a $100,000 CD at the First National Bank of Eastern Arkansas in Osceola for 12 months. And your sales tax report that I gave you, the sales tax that we received for the month of March was down from the previous month, but as you can see, it was up for the month of March from the previous past 10 years, so that is good news. I'm not sure what it's going to be this month yet, so I don't know about that. I also gave you a fund balance report as of today, and all of our funds are in good shape as of today. Does anyone have any questions?
I did note that we're below $1 million in county general for the first time in a while.
Yes, actually, it fell to 500,000
At one point.
yesterday, so we got our sales tax in, so. We haven't gotten any money from the sheriff's department in a while, but that will help a little bit when we get that in, so they're running a little bit behind. They've had some people out for sickness and stuff like that, so hopefully that will help a little bit. I don't know how much court they've been having, but with fines and stuff like that, that will help a little bit too.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Meek. We'll move on to the committee reports. Justice Jackson, do you have a solid waste or a sanitation solid waste report?
Yes, Judge, thank you. So the Sanitation and Solid Waste Committee met on March the 29th. The bulk of the business was presented by Mr. Franklin. There were 3 proposals to replace the D6 dozer for the landfill. Much of the discussion was based upon should we lease the dozer or should we buy it. After much discussion, there was a motion made to continue with the 36-month lease with a basic warranty. There was a couple of other items of business. There was a muffler repair for the exhaust system. There was a recommendation by the committee to replace the 2007 Ford Ranger, just because it had 147,000 miles on it. There was also a transfer pump for the new cell constructed. It was a small amount of $2,800. Again, the landfill is in good was not so good financially a few years ago. The Class 1 had a bond issue for the next 5 years. New Class 4 was paid in cash. As the year progresses, we may need to move something to finance, but at this time there was no appropriation needed for the truck or transfer pump.
And we're going to need to act fairly quickly on the bulldozer. And what was the? Do we need to send that to finance, or how are we going to move forward?
You leasing, buying, what y'all decide?
Recommended that they do.
Yes, we
Recommended to
did
lease.
recommend that there was that we lease it. It did not come before finance this month, though.
Judge, do you have money in any particular line item? I really haven't.
We
looked at
can,
it.
yes, we can do that.
If you've got the money in a line item, you really don't need to bring it to finance.
Well, and we're several months off, I think. Not several, but we're several weeks off. But, so it's the consensus of this body to go ahead and sign the lease, and then,
Yes, sir, I'd say so. You have that authority.
all right. Any other questions for Justice Jackson? Thank you. Justice Jackson, if you've got a report on the Energy and Property Committee.
All right, so the Energy and Property Committee met on April the 13th. Basically, we just updated the budget. And so we talked about a couple of change orders that created a catwalk. We talked about the allowances, which are still in a good place. There was a recommendation by the committee to appropriate an additional $310,000 to the construction fund. Again, the contingency fund is still at $200,000, and there is still an undesignated amount for $277,000. We updated the interest. There's not much interest now that the rates are low. There still needs to be a decision made from the Sheriff's Department concerning the X-ray machine and the metal detector. There is $35,000 allotted in that line item for the Sheriff's Department to make a decision. Mr. Ruby, the architect, discussed quite at length some of the concerns that some citizens had regarding the copper dome in Osceola. I think that we talked about the differences in the copper then versus now. I think Renaissance Roofing has also talked with the citizens of Osceola about any concerns that they may have had as well. Unfortunately, it is oxidizing at a faster rate than what we really thought that it would. So, but other than that, everything is moving along with the courthouse construction, and things look good.
Good deal. Thank you, Justice Jackson. Any questions? If not, we'll move on to the finance meeting. Justice White?
Yes, sir. The Finance Committee meeting met last Monday. We just briefly went through the monthly review of the March finances. Then Stephen Savage had set up a presentation by a company called Municode, Miss Crystal Hayes. And what the presentation regarded was a means of making our county ordinances and resolutions accessible on the internet through our county website, where anybody could go in on the county website, Joe Public, and search our ordinances and resolutions just using key search words. Be a very simple process, a very easy process. It would increase the county transparency to the public by quite a few links, actually, and a very inexpensive project at only $350 a year. Ms. Hayes did a very good presentation. It was very well received by the members of the Finance Committee, and you'll see a resolution on tonight's agenda allowing the judge to proceed in a contract to that end. The senior citizens came, Miss Amanda Adams, who is the director of the senior citizens, asked the finance committee to reestablish funding for a part-time custodian. We had done away with that position a year or so ago, and it's just running into where they've got to have the extra position done. It's very little money, $5,800 and $5,850 from July 1st to the end of the year. You'll see an appropriation ordinance to that effect also later on in the agenda. We discussed the Energy and Properties request of $310,000. You'll see an appropriation ordinance for that later tonight. And then Cliff Chitwood came and brought Dr. Jim Shimwell from the A&C College to talk to us about the workforce programs and the various training programs that they have in college. And I tell you what, Dr. Shimwell is a cheerleader for A&C. I just want to get up and cheer with him every time I get to hear him talk. But what a great college we have, and what a training program we have available in Mississippi County, and what national leaders Mississippi County is in this respect. He did a great job of explaining the workforce training program, and we gladly present a $200,000 appropriation request tonight to refund that workforce training program. Then we got just a quick software update from the various elected officials, where we have moved to the apprentice software. They went live April 1st. Always a glitch or two, but nothing major that wouldn't come over, and we think that in the long run it's going to be very, very effective for the county. And then we went on just with a couple, 3 announcements, especially about the insurance committee that I think Justice Fleeman will talk to us about.
Any question for Justice White? Thank you, Justice White. Justice Fleeman, do you have a report on the insurance committee?
Yes, I do. The insurance committee met April 23rd. We had 2 representatives from Stevens, our insurance brokers. They wanted to present us with a mid-year review and a mid-year review showing the up-to-date claims they had received year-to-date. Mr. Kane with Stevens informed the committee that we're trending at about 96.4% on paid loss ratio, which is really high in his opinion. They normally shoot for about 80 to 85%. He did say that he believes that will come down due to the, he said he believes it will come down, and it was attributed to the spike in people returning to doctors' offices and hospitals mid to fall last year. Also, we discussed the wellness incentive program that Cigna has set aside $10,000 for Mississippi County. The committee decided to go ahead with Cigna's sample plan, which involves $25 gift cards. There were 2 requirements in their simple incentive plan, and essentially if those requirements are met by an employee, they'll receive 2 $25 gift cards at the end of the year. That will go to finance next month to be considered whether they want to appropriate it or clean it up at the end of the year. Also, our finance director, Kelly Jones, she brought a proposal from CAS, Consolidated Administrative Services, to provide processing and submittal for our 1094, 1095 forms for the county. The finance department no longer has the ability to process those forms, and she believed the quote was fair, which was $1,700 to $2,000 per year, and that was passed by the committee as well, and that will go to finance sometime, she said, later this year or early next year. And lastly, I updated the committee on the unpaid claims case, which we're currently in with Gerber Life. Mr. Thomas, the attorney representing us in that case, at last I heard from him on the matter of when it would be resolved. He said March or April of 2022. So we're still a long ways off from having that case resolved. Mr. Thomas was able to procure a list of all the employees and providers to which they still have unpaid claims. And he has stressed to me that if the county were to go ahead and pay those unpaid claims, we would need to pay the negotiated amount that the Gerber Life negotiated for before they decided they weren't going to pay. And that negotiated amount is $658,000, give or take a few dollars. The original amount was $1.4 million. Mr. Thomas did say as well that if the providers will not take that negotiated amount, we should not pay the claims. He would recommend that it would damage the lawsuit. He didn't explain, go into depth, but that's what he said. I do have a couple questions that some of the justices proposed to me, and I did contact him Friday afternoon. He hasn't got back to me with any solid answers. I haven't heard from him. Here we are, it's Tuesday. I'm going to call him tomorrow again to see if I can get there. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Justice Fleeman. We'll move on to planning and development. Justice White?
Yes, sir. Proud to fill in for Justice Burge. Be glad when he gets back, and I think that will be soon. I did talk to Justice Burge briefly this week. He's nearing the end of his treatments, doing well, and looking forward to joining us in this process. In the planning and development, I spoke about it a little bit through the Finance Committee meeting, the $200,000 request coming about the workforce grant that you'll see the Appropriation Ordinance on. Dr. Shimwell from ANC speaking to us and doing a great job of presenting and explaining the programs. We also have an appropriation ordinance, or included in the appropriation ordinance will be an additional $50,000 incentive for Precision Steel in exchange for 5 jobs that they'll be developing over the next few months. I guess the highlight, other than Dr. Shimwell being there, is the fact that the renewal process for the half-cent sales tax, the economic development half-cent sales tax that will expire in 2023. There's been a citizens committee formed that's beginning that renewal process, and they have come and asked us for our support last month, which we presented a resolution in support of that process. And now then they have come to us and asked for us to set a special election date of August the 10th, 2021. And so you'll see an ordinance tonight establishing that special election date of August the 10th, referring the issue to the public to vote on the special revenue half-cent economic development sales tax. And that will be an ordinance and will require a minimum of 8 votes tonight, but I think we'll be fine. That's it, Judge.
Any questions? Thank you, Justice White. We'll move on to new business. We have a resolution in front of us. Ms. Curry?
Sir. Resolution number R 2021-4. A resolution authorizing the county to enter into a contract with Municode software company. Whereas the county has negotiated a contract with Municode, software company, that the county ordinances and resolutions may be accessed online by the general public. Whereas the Finance Committee has approved this contract and submitted it to the full court, therefore be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that the county is now authorized to enter into a contract with Municode for their provided service.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Second.
Ms. Curry, would you call the roll, please?
Justice Ash?
Yes.
Justice Cullen?
Yes.
Justice Fleeman?
Yes.
Justice Hinton? Justice Helpler?
Yes.
Justice Jackson?
Yes.
Justice Mangat?
Yes.
Justice McClanahan?
Yes.
Justice McDonald?
Yes.
Justice White?
Yes.
We'll move on to the ordinances. We have the second reading of the ordinance on the bidding and contracting process with transparency. Ms. Curry.
Can we read the entire ordinance?
Can we read by title only? Okay.
Make a motion, we read it by title only.
Yes,
Okay. Anybody second?
I'll second.
all in favor? Or should we vote on that?
It'd be better to take
All
a
right.
roll call vote.
Sure, that's
Safer.
Ms. Curry, would you call the roll?
Justice Ash?
Yes.
Justice Cullen?
Yes.
Justice Fleeman?
Yes.
Justice Hinton? Yes. Justice Helpler?
Yes.
Justice Jackson?
Yes.
Justice Mangat?
Yes.
Justice McClanahan?
Yes.
Justice McDonald?
Yes.
Justice White?
Yes.
All right, we'll read that by title only. Ms. Curry.
Ordinance number O-2021-8. An ordinance ensuring an open and transparent bidding and contracting process.
Judge, this again then, an ordinance requires 3 readings. We're 1 month in, and on the second reading, we could expedite it if you felt the emergency clause were necessary. Other than that, we'd move to the 3rd reading in next month's meeting.
I don't believe it's necessary.
Then we'd need to move to the 3rd reading next month.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Now, this is, what you call the roll.
Justice Ash?
Yes.
Justice Cullum?
Yes.
Justice Freeman?
Yes.
Justice Hinton? Yes. Justice Hepler?
Yes.
Justice Jackson?
Yes.
Justice Mangat?
Yes.
Justice McClanahan?
Yes.
Justice McDonald?
Yes.
Justice White?
Yes.
We'll move on to the second reading of the ordinance on the county board transparency.
Make a motion to read it by title only.
Second.
Is there discussion? Ms. Curry, would you call the roll, please?
Justice Ash?
Yes.
Justice Cullum?
Yes.
Justice Freeman?
Yes.
Justice Hinton? Yes. Justice Hepler?
Yes.
Justice Jackson?
Yes.
Justice Mangat?
Yes.
Justice McClanahan?
Yes.
Justice McDonald?
Yes.
Justice White?
Yes.
We'll move the ordinance on the special election of the sales tax issue.
She needs to read the ordinance by title only first, doesn't she?
Yes, Ms. Curry.
An ordinance entitled County Board Transparency Report Ordinance.
Make a motion to move it to next month for the 3rd reading.
Second.
Justice Ash?
Yes.
Justice Cullum?
Yes.
Justice Freeman?
Yes.
Justice Hinton? Yes. Justice Hepler?
Yes.
Justice Jackson?
Yes.
Justice Mangat?
Yes.
Justice McClanahan?
Yes.
Justice McDonald?
Yes.
Justice White?
Yes.
All right, we have the appropriation ordinance next on the special revenue fund. Ms. Curry.
Ordinance number O-2021-10. An ordinance authorizing the special election concerning an extension to the half-cent sales and use tax within Mississippi County, Arkansas, levied thereby for economic development purposes. Whereas pursuant to ordinance number O-2003-6, adopted March 25th, 2003, and an election held on April 29th, 2003, Mississippi County, Arkansas has levied a countywide half-cent sales and use tax for economic development purposes. Whereas ordinance number O-2010-9 extended the sunset provision of this tax for 10 years, and the tax is currently set to expire June 30th, 2023. Whereas the Quorum Court has determined that it would be in the best interest of the county to extend the levy of the tax until June 30th, 2033. Whereas the Quorum Court has passed a resolution supporting the efforts of Greta to extend this tax. Whereas the Planning and Development Committee has reviewed the matter and has agreed to send an ordinance to the full court authorizing a special election on the matter that is to be held on August 10th, 2021. And whereas the Quorum Court authorized a special election that is to be held on Tuesday, August 10th, 2021, now therefore be it further ordered by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, a special election will be held on August 10th, 2021 in order to determine the extension of the half-cent sales and use tax up to June 30th, 2033.
Judge, there are certain state guidelines that we fall within that we have to meet as far as timeline is concerned. and we have a certain time frame that we have to meet. If there are further questions, Cliff can help with that. But with that pressure in mind, I make the motion that we attach the emergency clause to this ordinance and advance to the second reading by title only.
I'll second.
Ms. Curry, would you call the roll?
Justice Ash,
Yes.
Justice Cullum,
Yes.
Justice Fleeman,
Yes.
Justice Hinton, Justice Helper,
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
Yes.
Justice Mangat,
Yes.
Justice McClanahan,
Yes.
Justice McDonald,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
Ordinance number O 2021-10. An ordinance authorizing the special election concerning an extension on the half-cent sales and use tax within Mississippi County, Arkansas, levied thereby for economic development purposes.
Judge, I make a motion that we suspend the rules and advance to the third reading by title only.
Second it.
Is there discussion? Ms. Curry?
Justice Ash,
Yes.
Justice Cullum,
Yes.
Justice Fleeman,
Yes.
Justice Hinton, Justice Helper,
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
Yes.
Justice Mangat,
Yes.
Justice McClanahan,
Yes.
Justice McDonald,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
Ordinance number O 2021-10, an ordinance authorizing the special election concerning an extension of the half-cent sales and use tax within Mississippi County, Arkansas, levied thereby for economic development purposes.
Move for adoption.
Second it.
Is there discussion?
Judge, I'd like to open the floor to Mr. Chitwood and ask for his input if he has any.
Thank you. I think everyone's heard this, but we'll do it one more time or several more times before the election. The tax has been, as most of you are well aware, a tremendous economic success and social success for Mississippi County. We have invested approximately $42 million over the 20 years that the tax has been in effect. That $42 million investment on our part has brought in over $300 million from the state of Arkansas and the federal government in matching grants. And that has initiated capital investment of almost $4 billion now in Mississippi County. So it has, and that investment has resulted in the county's coffers being much fuller than they would be because of the sales tax. We consistently give a 65% property tax rebate, which is what we have to do to be competitive just within our sister communities of Arkansas. But even 35% of $1 billion is a lot of money. And we have had, even this past year, we had $1.6 billion invested in Mississippi County, and that's not even on the tax rolls yet. Also, the tax has done its part in the creation of over 4,000 jobs, of which approximately 3,800 are still extant, yielding a payroll of $130 million a year. And since we have invested approximately $3 million a year, $3.2 million a year, and are receiving $130 million a year back in salaries for our people and people within the work area of the county, that's a very good return. Thank you, sir.
Any other comments or questions? Ms. Curry?
Justice Ash,
Yes.
Justice Cullum,
Yes.
Justice Fleeman,
Yes.
Justice Hinton, Justice Helper,
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
Yes.
Justice Mangat,
Yes.
Justice McClanahan,
Yes.
Justice McDonald,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
We'll move on to the appropriation ordinance for the special revenue fund.
Appropriation Ordinance number O 2021-11. An ordinance to establish a special revenue fund to be called the American Rescue Plan Fund and to declare an emergency. One, affirmation. It comes before this court that there is a need to establish a special revenue fund on the books of the county to track the revenues, expenditures, and/or appropriated transfers of federal assistance through the American Rescue Plan Act. This court recognizes and affirms the need for such a fund to properly account for and control all such revenues received and expenditures made in compliance with all applicable law and guidance from the U.S. Treasury. 2, establishment of fund. There is hereby created on the books of Mississippi County Treasurer and the books of the Mississippi County Clerk or Comptroller a special revenue fund to be known as the American Rescue Plan Fund with a fund number of 3046 as assigned by Arkansas Legislative Audit. The revenue code for the federal assistance through the ARP Act as assigned by Legislative Audit is 7112-Federal Coronavirus Relief. Number 3, operation of fund. The American Rescue Plan Fund is subject to all the normal county budgeting, appropriation, and expenditure regulations of Arkansas Code annotated Title 14 and the County Financial Management System implemented in accordance with 14-21-101. Funds must be used only in accordance with guidelines issued by the U.S. Treasury concerning the legal expenditures of revenues received pursuant to the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, which established the federal coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund. Proper records and documentation must be maintained for the federal audit purposes. 4, emergency clause. It is found by this court that the deposit of federal assistance funds from the American Rescue Plan Act are imminent, making it necessary to establish the American Rescue Plan Fund in order to be able to properly track the revenue, appropriated expenditures, and/or appropriated transfers. Therefore, an emergency is declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from the date of passage and approval.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Judge, the federal government passed Biden's $1.9 trillion package called the American Rescue Plan, part of that being the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund. And a lot of those funds are going to be trickling down both to the state and I think, well, I know the county level, and I hope even to the city level. And each entity that will be receiving those funds will be responsible for tracking those funds. We're required by law to set up a special fund to a special line item to take care of this. There will be certain guidelines that we have to meet based on the receipt of those funds and expenditures of those funds. So we're just getting ready. According to the federal guidelines, those funds, the first payment has to be made within 60 days of the passage of that act. And the last payment of our portion will have to be made within 12 months of the receipt of the first check. So sometime within the next year, we'll be receiving federal funds. And then we'll be about a 3-year period that we'll have to develop plans and expenditures for those funds and appropriately track them.
Any other comments or questions? I have one, Justice White. Do you have the parameters that this money could be spent?
They've been very broad in the initial letters that came out. And we'll have to deal with guidelines on coronavirus recovery. Some expenditures will be approved, some won't. We can't just go out and put it in the county general fund and just spend it on anything. They tell us that we will be having further restrictions passed on down, but we haven't gotten those yet, nor have we gotten the first check yet. I'd be afraid to spend anything till we know exactly how they're going to restrict us. But so far, they've been fairly broad in what we've seen to it, and it could be a significant amount of money that we're going to receive from the federal government.
With no other questions or comments, Ms. Curran?
Justice Ash?
Yes.
Justice Cullum?
Yes.
Justice Freeman?
Yes.
Justice Hinton?
Yes.
Justice Helper?
Yes.
Justice Jackson?
Yes.
Justice Mangat?
Yes.
Justice McClanahan?
Yes.
Justice McDonald?
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
Next on our agenda is the appropriation ordinance for workforce training and precision steel. Ms. Curry?
Appropriation ordinance number O-2021-12. An ordinance authorizing modifying appropriations for the operation of the Mississippi County government, whereas certain functions and processes of the county are in need of funding, whereas the Finance Committee has approved and recommends this funding and appropriation. Now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that one, the following appropriations modifications are hereby made for the 2021 budget. Slot or account number 3414.0129.3101 for workforce training in the amount of $200,000. Account or slot number 3414.0165.0.3999 for precision steel commitment in the amount of $50,000. Number 2, all appropriations previously authorized, approved, and made as to all other offices, departments, and agencies of county government, and all other funds not hereinabove changed are to remain as previously appropriated. Detailed provisions of said appropriations are reflected in the schedule of specific items listed by account numbers within the category for each office and filed in the office of the county court clerk. 3, this ordinance being an appropriation ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately from and after its passage and approval by the county judge.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion? Ms. Curry?
Justice Ash,
Yes.
Justice Cullen,
Yes.
Justice Freeman,
Yes.
Justice Hinton, Justice Hilton,
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
Yes.
Justice Mangat,
Yes.
Justice McClanahan,
Yes.
Justice McDonald,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
We'll move on to the appropriation ordinance funding slot 20 for the senior citizens. Ms. Curry?
Appropriation ordinance number O-2021-13. An ordinance authorizing modifying appropriations for the operation of the Mississippi County government, including an appropriation for the funding of slot 20 in the senior citizens budget. Whereas certain functions and processes of the county are in need of funding, whereas the Finance Committee has approved and recommends this funding and appropriation, now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that one, the following appropriations modifications are hereby made for the 2021 budget. Slot or account number 3401.0804.1001 for salaries in the amount of $5,434. Account or slot number 3401.0804.1006 for Social Security in the amount of $416. Number 2, all appropriations previously authorized, approved, and made as to all other offices, departments, and agencies of county government, and all other funds not hereinabove changed are to remain as previously appropriated. Detailed provisions of said appropriations are reflected in the schedule of specific items listed by account numbers within the category for each office and filed in the office of the county court clerk. 3, this ordinance being an appropriation ordinance shall be in full force and effect from July 1st, 2021 until the end of the year after its passage and approval by the county judge.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion? If not, Ms. Curry, would you call the roll?
Justice Ash,
Yes.
Justice Cullen,
Yes.
Justice Freeman,
Yes.
Justice Hinton, Justice Helper,
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
Yes.
Justice Mangat,
Yes.
Justice McClanahan,
Yes.
Justice McDonald,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
We'll move on to the last appropriation ordinance concerns the courthouse construction fund. Ms. Curry?
Appropriation ordinance number O-2021-14. An ordinance authorizing modifying appropriation for the operation of the Mississippi County government, including the appropriation of funds for the construction and renovation of the Mississippi County courthouses and for other purposes. Whereas there are currently underway construction and renovation projects on the Mississippi County courthouses in Lago, whereas it has been reported to the Mississippi County Quorum Court by the entities responsible performance of said projects, that funds are currently needed in the amount of $310,000 for the Burdette Courthouse. Whereas the Mississippi County Quorum Court wishes to provide for the funding for the cost of said project, now therefore be it enacted by the Quorum Court of Mississippi County, Arkansas, that one, the following appropriations modifications are hereby made for the 2021 budget. Slot or account number 4800.0108.4006 for construction in progress in the amount of $310,000. Number 2, all appropriations previously authorized, approved, and made as to all other offices, departments, and agencies of county government, and all other funds not hereinabove changed are to remain as previously appropriated. Detailed provisions of said appropriations are reflected in the schedule of specific items listed by account numbers within the category for each office and filed in the office of the county court clerk. 3, this ordinance being an appropriation ordinance shall be in full force and effect immediately from and after its passage and approval by the county judge.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Is there discussion? No, Mr. Rhodes, you call the roll.
Justice Ash?
Yes.
Justice Cullum?
No vote.
Justice Fleeman?
Yes.
Justice Hinton?
Yes.
Justice Helmer?
Yes.
Justice Jackson?
Yes.
Justice Mangat?
Yes.
Justice McClanahan?
Yes.
Justice McDonald?
Yes.
Justice White?
Yes.
We'll move on to the new business. Are there any announcements? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.